Are we in climate change denial, or are we doing enough to deal with the threat of global warming and climate change? I don't think so. Tonight we talked to Professor Vishwas Satgar of the South African Food Sovereignty Campaign and Trevor Balzer, DDG Special Projects in the Department of Water and Sanitation. Good to have you both with us. We're not doing a good job, are we?
Not really. I mean, this is one of the biggest existential threats we face as a society, as a world. It's a big challenge to human and non-human life. We're at 1 degree hotter since the Industrial Revolution, and as your clip and your voiceover said, this is bringing extreme weather patterns. It's breaking the normality that we've been used to as a human race, as part of modern civilization. The South African government has locked into the global multilateral negotiations. It's made various performative diplomatic commitments, but in the end it doesn't add up. And again, as you've identified, I mean, the total gas find has been hailed as a big thing. Fracking is on our agenda and so on, in the context in which the next 12 years are going to determine the fate of all of us. We really need...
We're still talking about coal, and it seems as if
we are a highly
capable of looking forward.
Coal-addicted society. Our national energy plan still locks us into a coal path and a coal trajectory, while at the same time we have one of the worst droughts in the history of our country. There's a direct correlation with an increasing heat globally, and we are not doing enough. There's visible state failure around this issue when it comes to a whole host of other infrastructure necessary to sustain life. With heavy downpours, etc., inundation, we're seeing our bridges being compromised. We are seeing the threats of flooding in various parts of our society and so on. We are not a climate-proof society yet. Our policymakers are failing us, and I'm so happy, and I want to congratulate you and ENCA for having us and having this debate and having this conversation.
I know the focus is on. We're going to keep up the pressure as much as we can. Trevor, I mean, when it comes to water, I mean, we're really seeing the impact there on water, aren't we? I mean, whether it's in a drought situation or too much rain, and we don't have the infrastructure or capability to deal with it.
Yes, indeed, you're correct. And the Western Cape is a point in case where we've come out of what we have calculated as a 1 in 400 year return drought, which is the severest drought which we've had to manage. And fortunately, with the support and the assistance and the pulling together the communities in Cape Town, we managed to see our way through it. But there are lessons to be learnt out of that, and how do we make sure that we build resilience going forward?
So we're not constantly playing catch-up?
We will be playing catch-up. We're trying to deal with this in terms of the master plan, which we've been working on for the last 24 months or so. And embedded in that master plan is the issue of climate change and the outcomes of the multinational agreements, which Prof has referred to. So climate change is part of that plan of making us more resilient and making sure that we're able to weather those shocks of either drought or flooding. As we move forward, we certainly, as part of the master plan, later on this year, will be organising a water and sanitation pakisa, where issues of climate change, amongst others, will be brought into that process. And we hope through a very consultative process and a focused pakisa that we will come out with some of the solutions there as well.
Do you think one of our problems is that we don't really get it? I mean, we can see it. We see these frightening natural disasters getting increasingly dangerous and increasingly scary, but we don't really get it, do we? I don't think we've maybe felt it enough. We've seen it in Cape Town, but I still don't think it resonates. Then obviously you've got people like Donald Trump poo-pooing it, which doesn't help.
It's registering in the everyday lives of people in these extreme weather events and so on. And I think what we always got to keep front and center is the science around climate change. And hence, we called on our president last year when the UN issued its, if you like, biggest warning around climate change with its 1.5 degrees Celsius report, to convene an urgent and emergency sitting of Parliament to debate this report and its implications for climate policy, climate readiness, and most importantly, the deep, just transition. We also sent this request to the Speaker of Parliament. We do not receive any recognition or of us sending this through, or any communication for that matter. But at the same time, I mean, I think if you look at what government is doing in terms of its machinery and so on, I really think that it's not enough. I mean, the government came late to the drought. It declared it a national disaster in 2018. This is like 3 years into this catastrophe, the worst drought in our history. What happened, okay? I think that's a failure that we need to talk about. I think the second thing we need to talk about is, what is the government doing in terms of managing this drought? So right now in places like Makana, it's the gift of the givers that's on the ground filling gaps for people. You have communities rallying and trying to find solutions from below.
Okay, let me ask you, I mean, do you think, okay, obviously playing catch-up, you know, getting to the table pretty late, but do you think the government is doing enough now when it comes to dealing with these issues that we're seeing today, the Makanas?
Yes, indeed. I think in terms of the drought and the drought across the country, I mean, it started intensifying in 2014 already in KZN and Northwest, and then spread across the rest of the country. I thought we managed pretty well through the drought. Other folk might have a different view around it. But in terms of managing our resource and making sure that generally we had water available across the country and that our economy didn't suffer too much as a result of the drought, I think we did reasonably well. There are lots of lessons we've learned out of it, which we will embed into our plans going forward. I think one of the issues, and you raised Makana as an example, yes, Makana, you've got an intersection of 2 issues there. You've got the drought, and then you've got the failure of infrastructure, which is managed by the municipality,
corruption,
which is not drought-related at all. So we can, from a resource point of view as a department, we can manage that resource. But if the infrastructure, which is the responsibility of the municipality, doesn't get managed and you aren't able to get that water to the communities, then you have a bigger problem.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, Professor Satka. Trevor Balzer, I know it's a big topic, but we'll be back. Promise.
Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. News is next.